Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, as you can read, schools, not stadiums, big court loss. Yeah, that's what it reads. Big court loss right here. Okay. And for those of you who are wondering what this is all about, well, just prior to the vote of the Nevada legislature approving a package of $380 million in public funding for the Oakland Athletics Las Vegas Ballpark project, a group led by a man named Alexander Marks called Schools Not Stadiums threatened to establish an initiative that, if successful, would result in the Southern Nevada Tourism and Innovation Act bond issue being pulled so that there would be no $380 million to be used, a combination, of course, of the 120 million in the bond issue and an additional package of tax credits totaling 380 million for the athletics construction of the new baseball stadium on the Las Vegas Strip. So the effort got off to a rather rocky start because, well, little things would plague the effort. For example, they didn't own the URL at first. They got that straightened out. And then they had technical problems with the secure socket layer of the website. And then they had more problems with the SEO of the website being so poor you couldn't find it. And then when you finally did find it, there was no button to push to donate to the effort. And then on top of that, the effort was mostly driven by people like my friend Michael Colbruno, who's a port commissioner and longtime government affairs consultant back in Oakland, leading the charge to fund this organization, Nevada, to basically all just to stop or try to stop the athletics move to Las Vegas because, well, the city of Oakland couldn't get its act together and do its part to establish and maintain the process of building Howard Terminal Ballpark back in Oakland. So this initiative got underway in fits and starts, finally looked like it caught momentum, and to the point where some of the national press were mentioning it to Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred, who said that if the initiative got as far as it could, it would be a significant problem, or words to that effect. And that caused to buoy the expectations of the proponents of the initiative. But then a group of attorneys that have no direct connection, excuse me, uh, or to the Oakland Athletics, but they are attorneys that are associated with an attack on the project. And one of them is said to be athletics attorney. You have to be careful who labels them because what happens is that the people who label the opponents as athletics attorneys are doing so to establish an us versus them mentality. But the point of fact is that the two gentlemen that brought forth with the initiative were not standard issue lawyers in house for the athletics. In fact, the key legal representative for the athletics is a woman, not a man. And at that, she's black. So, excuse me. So, but, the games went on and all the flotsam. But what happened was that when it was applied to Nevada political scrutiny, which sometimes dovetails with Nevada legislative scrutiny. I'll explain what that means in a moment. It didn't pass the test. Here's what I mean. And this is from experience. I filed an ethics complaint with within the state of Nevada. I'm not going to go into details of who it was against. It was a pretty significant player, but also a friend, I might add, who I quite admired, but I didn't like the tactics they were using regarding trying to land the Raiders for Las Vegas when we were trying to keep them in Oakland. And so I thought, as other outsiders do, that, oh, you have this government process that you can use that will work in your favor, and you've got the right argument, which is very similar to how the schools, not stadium people, in particular Mr. Marks, were behaving. Well, argument is the right one. I've always said, and candidly, because of the lessons that I learned in going through what a lot of A's fans are going through right now with respect to the loss of the Raiders, that it's not as simple as what you think you know. You're dealing with the culture of another state. And in particular, you're dealing with the culture of a state and a city, Las Vegas, that's known for being extremely developer friendly. What that means is essentially it's very hard to mount a legal challenge against the developer unless it has to do with financial reasons. And generally, that has to do with you being a partner with that development group and you've got a legitimate beef. But if you don't have anything like that, if it's more esoteric and it's a big project, particularly a large scale public private partnership, which has gained a great deal of political capital, you stand to lose. And that's what happened with my argument with respect to the Nevada Ethics Commission. And what I expected to find in the Oakland parlance was all of us getting together, led by Mayor Schaaf, and really doing a debrief to find out what we did wrong. None of that happened. Instead, Mayor Schaaf took the same mistakes she made with respect to the Raiders issue and poured them into the athletics issues. And I said to her, look, I want to run this because I know what we did wrong. But she didn't let me. And I thought, okay, fine. I know what's going to happen. And it's matters like this. And you have a group of people involved that think that they know better than who came before them. And what happened in this instance was really outlined very well by the Nevada Independent. I have to, even though I don't like how they've handled certain aspects of this problem, but I have to give, in particular, Tabitha Mueller and Howard Stutz a great deal of credit for laying out the balls and strikes of this case in an article entitled "Judge Tosses Teacher Union Backed Ballot Language Challenging Oakland A's, public stadium as challenging A's public funding or A's stadium public funding. Schools over stadiums can either resubmit a new referendum petition or appeal the court's decision to Nevada Supreme Court." That happened. This was released just later today, and it says a Carson City judge has rejected the language of a proposed ballot referendum petition that would have repealed public funding for a new Major League Baseball stadium in Las Vegas, saying the language was, quote, legally deficient and at points, quote, confusing. The nearly hour and a half hearing Monday in the First District Court, Carson City, where all legal challenges to statewide ballot questions are filed, was the first hearing in a lawsuit that challenged the ballot initiative filed by the teacher union led political action committee called Schools Over Stadiums. The PAC is seeking to qualify a ballot question asking voters to approve or reject $380 million in public financing for a proposed $1.5 billion 33,000 seat stadium on the Strip that would become home to the relocated Oakland A's. In his ruling from the bench Monday, which means that there was no jury. And that's the other key here. When there's no jury in these situations, you should assume in Nevada cultural matters with a challenge like this, anyone that comes up that heads to court is all but assured a loss. Okay, a loss. And so I continue here. They write, in his ruling from the bench Monday, Judge James Russell said the issue is not about the content of the ballot question, quote, and then in parentheses, they write, he noted he is, quote, presumably, probably more passionate toward building schools than I am stadiums, unquote, but whether the petition follows state law governing the referendum process. Russell said the state's referendum law requires the full text of the measure to be included on any forms used by organizers to collect signatures to qualify the measure. He added that the petition's description of effect, a 200-word summary of the measure that appears on signature collection forms, is, quote, confusing and did not fully state the effect of the measure on the financial issues it may present. And this is what he said, I quote, the order of the court is that the referendum petition is legally deficient because it does not provide the full text of the measure when gathering the necessary signatures as mandated by the Nevada Constitution, Russell said. Now think about what you just heard there. If you presumably are a seasoned lawyer who is working on behalf of your client, in this case, Alexander Marks and Company, wouldn't you know to file the documents correctly and write them correctly in such a way that you don't have this incompleteness of presentation? I mean, doesn't that occur to you as something that should have been done? It does to me. And then it goes on. All right. It goes on to write that the Schools Over Stadiums Political Action Committee can either resubmit a new referendum petition or appeal the court's decision to the Nevada Supreme Court. The ruling means that the PAC would need to refile petition language with the Secretary of State's office and that any signatures gathered would be invalidated, though a spokesperson for the Schools Over Stadiums PAC said it has not yet collected any signatures. Under state law, they continue to write, the Schools Not Stadiums PAC needs to collect at least 102,586 signatures, including 25,647 from each of the state's 4 congressional districts by a deadline of July 8th of next year, 2024, to qualify the referendum for the ballot. Russell acknowledged the potential for appeal when he said he was very aware that we, the First District Court in Carson City, are a stop on the way to the Supreme Court. Schools Over Stadium spokesperson Alexander Marks wrote in a text message to the Nevada Independent that, quote, the plan is to appeal this decision to the Nevada Supreme Court and or refile the referendum petition. You see, my question is, how much money do they have? Because last time I checked, they had, 27,000? And it's a fair bet that they're spending money on these lawyers, on the clock. Now they have to spend more money they didn't anticipate spending. And here is the other concern I would have, just looking at it without judging one way or the other, is if you have a person who has made this kind of mistake filing the document, right? How do you know they're not going to make some other kind of mistake that you didn't anticipate, really because they're not wanting to stop the project? Again, I'm saying to you, this is Nevada, and Nevada is pro-development. And there's a reason why I call Las Vegas the experimental prototype community of tomorrow. You have all of these buildings around here, some that haven't been finished and then started working on again, like the Fontainebleau, but they're all there because the government approved construction of them, even when their financial picture looked initially iffy. Take Jackie Robinson and his effort to build what he calls the all net arena with the idea of attracting an NBA basketball expansion team to Las Vegas, Nevada. He has the land, the Riviera land property over there, and he had reportedly sketchy financing, which has gotten better, but the government allowed him time to get that financing, and they really bent over backward to give him an opportunity, a chance, particularly a black developer, which is great, to get his financial act together and necessary money together to build that structure. Folks, that doesn't happen everywhere. I mean, I want to make that clear. That does not happen everywhere at all. And they're very much pro letting you do something rather than allowing what someone might consider to be a frivolous lawsuit to come in. Because in the case of schools over stadiums, I pointed out many times, they can go to Dave Cavell and negotiate with him if they're really concerned about getting money to Nevada schools and students for a piece of the revenue pie the A's are going to make in Nevada on the Las Vegas Strip with what promises to be and will be a dramatically new and different ballpark, rather than this more California-esque approach, which, frankly speaking, Nevadans detest, even those who come from California to live there. So it was just, so I'll continue with what the Nevada Independent crew wrote. And they're saying that attorney Bradley Schrager, who filed a lawsuit on behalf of two lobbyists affiliated with labor unions that support the project. There you go. Okay. The referendum violated the law by not including the exact language of the proposal in their petition, adding that the petition's description of effect was inaccurate, misleading, and argumentative. Now, let me ask you, what's to stop them from making a similar argument all over again, even with a refiling? Okay. Then it goes on to write, Schrager said in a previous interview that he represents a broad and emerging coalition of business and labor interests, including the Oakland A's, aside from NSEA, a statewide teachers union, organized significant supporter of Pro Stadium. And then it goes on to write that represent schools over stadiums. Attorney Frank Flaherty said that the state does not provide a specific form for referendum petition. This is for a lot of challenges in Nevada. For example, for ethics, they'll give you space to lay out your argument, but they're going to tell you what to say. Okay. It's very wide open. And so whatever you write is tantamount to taking a walk in a field in the dark, pitch black, that you don't know has quicksand, right? I guarantee you, folks, you're going to step in that quicksand. And that's what these folks are finding out. All right. That's exactly what's going on here. He added that the petition was sufficiently clear and that included all 66 pages of the bill without any discussion or context that might overwhelm voters. He noted that petitioners had introduced key passages that were relevant to the issue in an order that will help them. He said, he's quoted, there's nothing in the Nevada Constitution or NRS, which is Nevada Revised Statutes, that says, oh no, you have to go in numbered order, Flaherty said. No matter how difficult it is for the voters, no matter how much it doesn't make sense, you got to start with section 1 and finish with section 46. It doesn't say that in the Constitution. He disputed the contention that the petition's description of effect misleads voters because it explains the ins and outs of the bill and funding mechanisms. He added that the 200-word cap was severely limiting. Well, you have 200 words. I mean, they're not going to change it for me. They're not going to change it for him. They didn't change it in the past, and they sure as heck aren't going to change it in the future. This is me talking now. Now they write, Major League Baseball owners are expected to consider the A's relocation request next week during the group's winter meetings in Arlington, Texas, UTA. The vote requires 75% approval from the owners for the relocation following recommendation by a committee of 3 owners to construct the stadium on 9 acres of a 33-acre site on the strip that currently houses the Tropicana Las Vegas Hotel. Gaming Leisure Properties, which owns the site, agreed to commit $175 million toward the project. A timeline unveiled at the October 26th Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting calls for the Tropicana to be closed and demolished by the end of next year, with the ballpark construction to begin April of 2025. Officials from Bally's Corporation, which operates the Tropicana, said the company is awaiting approval from Major League Baseball before moving ahead with the Tropicana's demolition. Although we have some short-term pain, this is an extremely valuable asset, Bally's CEO Robeson Reeves said last week. The strategic opportunities this development presents for our company are highly compelling. And that's where it ends. Okay. In fact, and then they go on that 2 supporters of the work of the Nevada Independent are the Nevada State Education Association to the tune of $24,000 and Bradley Schrager, who contributes $2,250. So Timothy Ryan says, do you think if they get enough signatures, the referendum would get voted on by the Nevada voters? I don't think it's going to get that far, Tim. All right. I mean, and I want you to understand the gravity of what's happening here. This is a setback. It's a court challenge that says, all right, you go and you file your petition documents, but they have to go undergo scrutiny by the Attorney General's office and by the public. All right. You don't know whether your filing is good or bad. And I'm talking about the filing that creates the ballot measure before you get signatures. Okay. So, and then meanwhile, you've got attorneys on your clock. People aren't doing this necessarily for free. If they are doing it for free and they're top-notch attorneys, okay, cool. But if they aren't getting paid, that may very well explain why, to a degree, this turned out the way that it did. If you have an attorney that's not getting paid for this, and then they have to go do more work and more work and more work, and they find themselves being criticized for things they didn't consider, or they thought were going to go the other way, then it becomes, it is what it is, a loss. And now if they're getting paid, it's another story. Now, if they're nonprofit and they don't have a lot of funders, they're going to go through their money really quick. And that's what's going on right here. You have enough people on the other side that have enough money to simply afford to drain them in court. All right. Okay. So you file again and another lawsuit is filed. There's no rule that says, oh, once a lawsuit's filed, another one can't be filed. That's not true. They can come back with another one. And if they know what they're doing, and it sounds like they do, that lawsuit filing could just as very well be as damaging as this one was. All right. So you ask, when does it stop? It doesn't have to. It really doesn't. This is Nevada politics in action. All right. This is Nevada politics in action. So it's not a matter of, will they get enough signatures? Well, I'll answer the question. No, they won't. And the reason they won't is because the way the timing is going is such that they should have started getting their signatures the minute they had everything set up. The fact that they waited was stupid. Why? Because once the rendition of the ballpark comes out that they really intend to build and the public gets its eye on it, if it is as well received as I believe it's going to be, that would be the end game. Okay? Next week, when the Major League Baseball owners vote to allow the Athletics to relocate, that will be the other death knell to any referendum. You can do your referendum, but trying to get signature of something that is already, by the time these folks get out to really start canvassing, is on its way down the pipe, is going to be an exercise in folly. It's just patently stupid. Because the question is, why did you wait? That was not answered. Why did they wait? You know, money. There's got to be some other reason. Why did they wait? I don't know. But where this is right now is it's headed pretty much where I thought it was going to head. It's going to get what usually happens here. You get a lot of media play and attention, but there's a vast difference between what happens and what people say and what happens in court. Uh, this person says, I'm trying to get, excuse me here. Hey, I'm trying to get your comment up here. Excuse me for a second. I'm getting, oh, here it is. Flipjack 329. The Oakland A's fans who support schools over stadiums don't even care about the schools in Nevada. They're only doing this to try and sabotage the A's effort to move to Las Vegas. That's true. That's the other problem. There's no effort. I mean, let's take what Alexander Marks presented. I mentioned him. I'm just now going to use his name. The pictures that have to do with schools over stadiums have nothing to do with kids at all. Nothing. Yeah, sure, maybe here and there, but there's no photograph of Mr. Marks with children and teachers in a lobby. There's a photograph of him in Oakland with A's fans who want to give him money for this. And then when you try to find out something about his background, like on Facebook or something, it looks like his page has been scrubbed. Why is that? Is there something in Mr. Marks' past or present he doesn't want anybody to know? Is he married or not? These are just basic questions. If he's not, he's not. If he is, he is. Who is Alexander Marks? And why hasn't anyone in the media bothered to ask? Okay, fine. He ran for a Democratic district election about 6 years ago, I believe, lost. He's a young man. He's now, 29, I believe, 30. Good for him. But was this for him to burnish his credentials as a progressive challenger of billionaires so that he can seek higher office? Wouldn't put it past me to think otherwise, considering the fact that there's no other raison d'etre here. He talks more about billionaires than schools by miles. He talks more about John Fisher, and he seems to be anti-union. How can you be anti-union and be a Democrat? All right. And yet he ran as a Democrat, but he then gets on Twitter and he retweets a tweet that makes fun of all people, Peter Guzman, the head of the Latin Chamber of Commerce in Las Vegas, who's a good dude. Why would he do that? I know Peter's mad at me about the whole Raider thing, but yeah, it's all fair in love and war, right? My whole point is, bottom line, you got people out there who work blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that the billions of dollars of construction money that come in via these projects, casinos, Legion Stadium, the Sphere, I think Sphere less so, which gets to another point I'll make in a second, go to efforts to make sure that their people get hired. And that leads to my other point. When you're developing large-scale projects, you would love for the government to have an investment in them, especially sports where it's high profile. Why? Well, look at Sphere. Did anyone bother to ask what the percentage of people working on the project were of minority or black? Does Sphere have anybody black in its management team? All right. You don't have to ask that question with respect to Legion Stadium, because the answer is that, yeah, African Americans Asian Americans, women, everybody, as much as possible, is well represented, and the public mandates that through its government contracts and statutes. Okay, it mandates diversity. But with a project like Sphere, as magnificent as it is, where's the mandate for diversity in its construction? Where's the mandate for diversity in its operation? When you have government investment, you get that. And that's why it is very good to have government money in NFL stadium projects. That's why. Now you have people like J.C. Bradbury, this conservative professor down here in the South in Georgia, who come up with these ridiculous straw person reasons why there shouldn't be public money in stadiums. When you drill down, what he also opposes are unions that get jobs for people who look like me. So the guy's a racist. All right. Guys like that will ruin your project. I'm telling you, if you side with that person in your political efforts, the very way he is will hurt you. Heck, it's hurt him. He was kicked off a panel not too long ago because of his ridiculous views. So that hurt him professionally. So you don't want these people around who think that way, or Neil DeMau's over here on field of whatever he calls his, junkie website, racist, always opposing these efforts, never stopping to even ask the question if minorities or black folks were hired, taking a whole page out of his website specifically for me because I dared say, he got triggered by a guy, black, who said, "Oh yeah, I'm the person who told Dave Cobble about tax increment financing and how to use it to obtain affordable housing construction, but also for his objectives." And it's true. And Dave Cobble will tell you, "Oh, but Neil got so upset with that. He contributed, a good, I would say, 2,000 words." Go, Neil, go, Miles. Keep talking about Zinni, having Zinni on the brain. Yeah, blankety blank. So, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous stuff. Absolutely ridiculous. All right. But I want to get that news out there. I have some more news related to tomorrow's resolution. Subscribe to Zinni62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com. I'm guessing no one else has any questions, but I'll see you. Bye-bye.